Shalom, welcome to the Jewish Task Force, JTF. I'm Chaim ben Pesach, and this is another program with the great David ben Moshe. This will be an especially important program because on this program, we're going to explain to you how JTF donors, those of you who have helped us, have literally saved Jewish lives in Israel. The Arab terrorists have set fires against Jewish communities, and it's JTF that provided the equipment to put out those fires. And we're going to explain that to you. And other things we're doing in addition to that, I mean, literally saving Jewish lives and literally the only hope for saving Israel from a so-called Palestinian terrorist state, because Israel's in grave danger now, and we have to back the Hilltop Youth urgently, now more than ever. Secondly, we're going to discuss the Trump-Biden debates. Donald Trump agreed to two debates, one in June and one in September, one with CNN and one with ABC. I'm not happy with the Trump decision to right away agree to all of Biden's preconditions. I think that was a mistake. I want debates with the late Joe Biden, but I don't think that we should have a complete cave-in, and I'll explain why I think that might have been a mistake to agree to all of Biden's preposterous preconditions for the debate. Trump is going to be going in with hands tied behind his back and with a disadvantage here because of those preconditions. So it's something that I'm concerned about. But first, this program is dedicated to Refuah Shlema, complete recovery, for Sharon Mitman, Shlomo Ben Tzara, Dorit Bat Tzara, Ruven Ben Shoshana, and Ruth Bat Tzara, and to Ilui Neshamot, elevating of the souls, for Malka Bat Meir, Allegra Bat Shlomo, Daniel Nankin, Victor Chazdai, Pesach Zed Ben Dov, Lunita Adler, Shifra Hoffman, Ruven Hoffman, Barry Hoffman, Haramir Kahana, Rabbi Yamin Kahana, Tzipora Fegi, Bat Liba, Yosef Ben Meir, Robert Mittman, Dennis Shore, Helen Friedman, and Charles Zolat. Well, first of all, let me just start off by saying, before we get to the Biden-Trump debates and the danger that I see in those in the preconditions that Trump has agreed to, that the Biden demanded and that Trump has agreed to. Before we get to that really important story, the Arab terrorists, one of the things the Muslim terrorists do this time of year, this is the season where they set fires. And they set massive fires near the hilltop communities where these Jewish heroes are. And the fires nearly reached the homes of these hilltop families with their children, their women, and their little kids and their babies, nearly reached their homes, God forbid. But one of the things JTF did, one of the things we've gotten them all types of equipment, and one of the things we purchased for them with your support, those of you that are supporting us, is mapuchim. Mapuchim are fire extinguishers, the type of fire extinguishers which not water fire extinguishers. How do you call it? What do you say that in English when it's with the air,
With a pump?
Yeah, these are pumps, but massive pumps that put out the fires. And they were effective. They were effective, and they literally saved lives here. If they had not had this equipment, God forbid, there would have been terrible tragedy. Babies and children and others would have been in grave danger if not for this. So it's just one of the things we do that literally are saving lives. When you help JTF, help the Hilltop Youth, it literally saves Jewish lives. Thousands of acres have been burned by Arab Muslim Nazi terrorists because the Hilltop Youth are taking over more and more areas around their hilltop communities. They're taking over, as we mentioned before, there are 600,000 Jews who are called Jewish settlers in 3% of Judea and Samaria, because the Israeli government will only allow them in 3% of Judea and Samaria. That's the official area where Jews are allowed to settle. The other 97% is supposed to be Judenrein, Jew-free. That's the anti-Semitic policy of the Jew hater Bibi Netanyahu and his disgusting government. Not allowing Jews to live in 97% of Judea and Samaria, to allow the Arabs to take over all of that so they can create a Palestinian terrorist state. Even though there is no Palestine, there are no Palestinians. But the Hilltop Youth have moved into the other 97% and have dozens of the most strategic hilltops throughout that other 97%. Frustrating the plans of Netanyahu and the late Joe Biden and the president of the United States, Anthony Blinken, and all of these other evil people who want Israel to commit national suicide. The Jewish, a few thousand hilltop youth, just a few thousand hilltop youth, have more land in Judea and Samaria than 600,000 Jews in the established settlements. Just a few thousand Jews. I don't know how many there are exactly. I don't know if they're 3 or 4 or 5,000. I don't know how many hilltop youth there are. But just a few thousand. They have taken over more land, more acreage than 600,000 Jews who live in these apartment buildings and other in the established settlements, in the 3%, where they're crammed into the 3%. And so they want to take over as much as possible. And so they plant crops, and they have agricultural programs there. And of course they have very large flocks of sheep, and they have cows and horses and raise chickens and do all types of things that you want to do when you have agriculture. The Arab Muslim Nazi terrorists have burned. They always burn huge numbers, thousands and thousands of acres of land, and so this is a constant danger. Thank God JTF is there to provide them, because they don't have enough money to buy everything that they need. They just don't have enough. Thank God JTF is there to help them in this situation. And those of you who help JTF, you literally have saved Jewish lives. You've saved the lives of the most precious, heroic Jews of our generation. Literally. And that's why you should support. Maybe this is a good time before we even get to the Biden-Trump debate issue. It's a good time to mention. You should be supporting JTF now more than ever. We need your support to help the Hilltop youth. If you want to help the Hilltop youth, and 100% of our budget, by the way, goes to this. 100% of our budget. If you want to help the Hilltop youth, you just go to our Hebrew main page, hayamin.org, and on hayamin.org, which is in Hebrew. The page is in Hebrew, but you have a donate button, a big donate button in English on top. You click on the donate button in English on top, and in several minutes you can very easily and conveniently donate to help the heroic Hilltop youth and to help save Israel from catastrophe, God forbid. That's if you want to do it online. If you want to do it through the internet, but if you'd rather send checks and money orders through the regular mail, you just make checks and money orders out to JTF, and you send it to JTF, P.O. Box 650327, Fresh Meadows, New York 11365. This is really the cause that is worth supporting. And the reason why you're in this world is to support this noble cause, Jews and righteous Gentiles. If you love Israel and love the Jewish people, this is your chance to do something about it. Now, on the day that we're taping this show, Donald Trump has agreed to Joe Biden's request. Joe Biden proposed 2 debates, and he proposed all types of preconditions for the debates, and I think that Donald Trump should not have accepted all of these preconditions. Donald Trump right away accepted all these preconditions. One of the debates is going to be in June. The other debate is going to be in September. The debate in June is going to be on CNN, and the debate in September is going to be on ABC. Now, here are the preconditions that Trump agreed to in these debates. Preconditions that I think were a mistake to agree to. Number one, that there be no audience. Of course, Biden, the late Joe Biden, doesn't want an audience. He's afraid of an audience because the audience will see how pathetic he is. What a joke it is that he's the president of the United States. He doesn't want an audience, whereas Donald Trump is very entertaining and very charismatic and captivates people with his speaking style. So, of course, in front of an audience, Trump has the advantage. So Biden insisted there be no audience. Second thing, Biden insisted that the mics of the candidates be muted after they give their rehearsed answers to questions, because they're going to get a question and they're going to have a rehearsed answer. But then their mic is muted. So what does that mean? That means Biden is going to go into this debate with rehearsed answers, memorized rehearsed answers to softball questions that he's going to get from the biased reporters of CNN and ABC who support him 100%, 1,000%. He's going to have rehearsed answers. Trump won't even be able to respond to him because his mic is going to be muted after Trump gives his answer. His mic is muted, and then Biden just gives his rehearsed answers. And because the expectations are so low for Joe Biden, because he's such a dead man walking, because of that, if he even gives an answer that in any way sounds half human, people can say, "Oh, so he's not that bad." That's the danger here. He is that bad. He is that bad. Even someone with dementia, even someone who's senile, can be given rehearsed, can be given rehearsed lines and can repeat rehearsed lines on a one-time basis. That is possible with people.
That's if they can remember all their lines.
No, but he'll be propped up and it'll be repeated so many times. No, that he, I think he will be able to do that. And that's the problem. Because then people might get the impression that he's not as senile as he really is. That's the problem. Now, the other problem here is the fact that it's on CNN and ABC. One is on CNN and the other's on ABC, which are two television networks. I don't know if they're called cable. I guess they're still, ABC is a network. CNN is a cable. I don't even know what they're called. I don't care. They should drop dead. These filthy Jew-hating left-wing communist scum. They should all drop dead. They are obsessed with hatred toward Donald Trump, obsessed, and have been obsessed with hatred toward him for ever since he first announced his candidacy for president in 2015, before the 2016 race he announced the year before. Ever since 2015, they have been obsessed with hatred for Donald Trump and obsessively are doing everything they can to prop up and support the late Joe Biden. And so having very biased reporters there is very bad. Because let me explain to you what happens. First of all, the questions are going to be biased and rigged in favor of Biden and against Trump. That's number one. Secondly, the rules are rigged in favor of Joe Biden and against Donald Trump. And third, afterwards, the stupid, dumb viewers, because most Americans are dumb. They voted for Barack Hussein Osama to be president of the United States. They're dumb. Dumb. Dumb is a compliment. I'm insulting dumb people. They made a black Muslim president of the United States only a few years after Muslims brought down the Twin Towers.
Yeah, we will never forget. That lasted a few weeks.
Yeah. So, an American people that twice in 2008 and in 2012 voted by a large margin to elect Barack Hussein Osama, Farrakhan supporting, who supports Louis Farrakhan. I'm sorry, by the way, I have a cold. I apologize for that. I'm run down because I'm spending, I haven't been getting enough sleep, which goes against my own philosophy. I'm someone who always preaches that you got to get enough sleep and you got to eat properly and you got to exercise. And I do exercise and I do eat only healthy food. But lately I've been so busy with our activities with Israel that, and working to get enough money for the Hilltop Heroes, that I did not get enough sleep. And, I'm 67 years old. You don't get enough sleep, you don't get enough rest, and you go day after day after day like that, living on, 4 or 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night. That's not enough. You're going to get run down and sick if you do that, and it's dangerous. And now I have to, whether I like it or not, I have to get enough rest. So I got sick. But anyway, getting back to what we're talking about here. After the debate, the CNN and ABC, there are people that stay on then to listen to the commentary of what happened in the debate. And CNN and ABC are going to come on and say that Biden won. It doesn't matter if Biden drops dead on stage in the middle of the debate. They're still going to say he won. If Trump gives the best performance, the most entertaining performance he's ever given, and Biden is completely brain dead, they will still say Biden won. Just look at the 1980 debate between Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter. That was the incredibly famous historic debate where Ronald Reagan said, there he goes again. I mean, he was so smooth and so perfect and gave such great answers, and Jimmy Carter was terrible. Reagan slaughtered Carter in that debate. It was the most decisive victory you could possibly have in a debate. You couldn't have a more textbook example of what you would want your candidate to do in a debate than what Reagan did. It was perfect. And Carter was just a cranky, nasty left-wing peanut farmer. Governor Reagan, I don't like what you're saying, Governor Reagan. Just a nasty, disgusting, annoying individual. And Reagan came out with so smooth, so perfect. But after that debate, the reporters after that debate claimed Carter won. Now, eventually they had to back down because the polls showed that the American people in 1980 were not that dumb yet. So in 1980, the American people overwhelmingly felt that Reagan won the debate. But the reporters, if you listen to the analysis from the experts, from all the reports, ABC, CBS, NBC, all of the experts, if you listen to their expert analysis, Carter won the debate. It doesn't matter what the late Joe Biden does. They're going to say he won. And unfortunately, nowadays, there are so many Americans who are so stupid, they listen to what the evil left-wing communist media tells them. And the media, you have to be deaf, dumb, and blind not to see that the media is hopelessly, obsessively, fanatically biased against Trump and in favor of the late Joe Biden. Fanatically.
Far more against Trump than they were against Reagan.
Much more. And, well, there's so much more at stake here now. Now the country's very survival is at stake. This is it. Because this is the tipping point. We lose this one, it's over. For America, you could say goodbye to America if we lose this one. That's it. Say goodbye. That's over. David thinks it's over anyway, already over. But anyway, regardless, I'm not going to be as pessimistic as David.
Well, don't expect anything, and you won't be disappointed when you don't get it.
Yeah, but whatever. By the way, I always want to introduce as much as possible into these discussions, though, the fact that in the end, the good guys are going to win here. Not necessarily for America. America might not be saved. The Bible and the prophets in the Bible do not speak about saving America, but Israel will be saved in the end. The Jews will wake up and Israel will be saved. That's promised in the Bible. That you can bet on. There may be a lot of suffering and death and destruction in the meantime, God forbid. That's what we want to avoid. That's why we're fighting so hard and supporting the Hilltop Youth. But Israel in the end will win, and the good guys are going to win. The evil people in this world will be destroyed in the end. That will eventually happen. And the righteous will take over and they'll have eternal life. That's the Jewish biblical view. That's the view of the Jewish prophets and the Jewish biblical view. That's what the prophets say over and over again in their message, in their timeless message. And the Jewish prophecies are all coming true right before our eyes, so you know it's true. The Jews have returned to Israel after 2,000 years. The Jews do defeat their enemies. 10 of you shall chase 1,000 of them. 100 of you shall put 10,000 of them to flight. The Jews outnumbered 100 to 1, beat their enemies in 6-day wars. I mean, when the whole world is against them and when they have their own leaders are traitors. I mean, you couldn't get more miraculous events than this. So this is unfolding. The desert shall bloom like a garden. That didn't happen with Israel. I mean, you couldn't get more miraculous events than this. So when they tell, eventually the Jews are going to wake up, and eventually Jews and righteous Gentiles are going to prevail and are going to win because God's going to intervene on their behalf. That's going to happen. So let's not lose hope here, because in the end, we're going to win. But America, but America is not guaranteed to be part of that picture. America can go under, like other empires have throughout history. That can happen. And I believe that if Trump loses, I think it's over for America. I think America will go under. I think it'll be the end of the United States if Trump loses. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. Not an exaggeration at all. The border will be open, and forget it. It'll be irreversible, the destruction that will take place if the late Joe Biden is reelected. So, with all of that at stake, you know that these reporters, these evil anti-American, anti-Semitic left-wing reporters are going to do everything they can to rig the game in favor of the late Joe Biden. So I don't think Trump, with so much at stake, I don't think Trump should have agreed. He should have said, I want debates. Trump should have said, I want to debate you once a week, every single week from now till Election Day. I want to debate you. Anytime, anywhere. But not accept conditions that make it, that tie Trump's hands in the debate. And that artificially will create the impression that Biden is still alive, because he's not. So this is the concern I have. I don't think he should have agreed to these rigged, unfair conditions. I think he agreed too quickly. I think it was a mistake. I understand that he's anxious to debate the late Joe Biden. He thinks he can expose him in the debate. But the way Biden and his campaign set it up, that may not be easy to do. Again, I think it was a mistake. And again, you know for sure that the media is going to rig is going to rig the commentary and analysis after the debate to say that Biden won, and then they're going to have rigged polls saying, "Oh, the polls show Biden won." They'll have polls too doing that too. The left-wing polls are rigged. How you ask questions in polls can easily tilt the poll in any direction you want, and they'll do that for Joe Biden gladly.
You know, Trump is a good debater, but he's not a great debater like someone like Ted Cruz is.
That's for sure. Well, I'm not even going to go into what I think about. I think Ted Cruz is a fantastic debater. I think Ron DeSantis, by the way, was an excellent debater in this campaign. I think he did very well in the debates. I think he won every single debate he was in, Ron DeSantis, and Ted Cruz certainly won all of the debates he has ever been in. Unfortunately, Republicans decided to pick Donald Trump. I think it was a big mistake, terrible, tragic mistake that may lead to the destruction of America in the end. Big mistake, because you can imagine, you think Joe Biden, imagine Joe Biden going against Ted Cruz in a debate, or against Ron DeSantis. It would be, there wouldn't even be a question as to what would happen in the debate. Here, there are questions, and again, I have no doubt that if it was fair, that Trump easily could defeat the late Joe Biden in a debate. That I have no doubt about. Easily. If it was fair. I don't think Joe Biden is capable of participating in a fair debate. If he does, he will come out looking like what he is, which is someone who should be dead and buried in a cemetery already. I mean, he looks, President of the United States, he looks like someone who's been 6 feet under already for several years. And he speaks like
you can see him deteriorating month by month.
But still, you can prop somebody up even with dementia. You can temporarily prop them up and rehearse and give them rehearsed lines. And Biden is still capable of doing rehearsed lines. That he's still capable of doing if they drill him again and again and again with the same lines, and they will prepare him like he's never been prepared before. They will prepare him and go over it thousands of times with him until he's going to be saying these things in his sleep. They will prepare him for this. So he'll come out looking like he's half human, which is a terrible thing because he's not. I don't know. I don't know what you think, David, but I think that Trump should have said, "I agree to debates anytime, any place," but some of these conditions are just not acceptable. What do you think, David?
I think CNN that's the communist news network. He has no chance there. No matter how well he does, CNN will say Joe Biden won. It wasn't even close. And with no audience in the studio to either laugh or applaud, people might take the newscaster's words, because when I get to speak, I'm going to show something that just shows how stupid the American people are.
I agree. I agree. And by the way, you're mentioning CNN, but ABC is no better. They're not any better.
It should be. The major news networks should be right down the middle. Of course, I prefer to see them far right wing, but in all fairness, they should be right down the middle. These are major news networks that have been the signal of America for decades, going back 100 years to radio. And to be just the propaganda arm of the Democrat Party is a disgrace.
Especially when the Democrat Party has turned into the Communist Party.
Yes.
And by the way, I when you say straight down the middle, I actually think that news organizations have an obligation to be patriotic and to defend their country. And once upon a time, they did think they believed that also. Once upon a time in World War II, they gave patriotic messages in reporting, and in World War I as well. I think not to give a patriotic message and to give the enemy's side all the time. And in the case of ABC, NBC, CNN, and CBS, they take the enemy's side. They are the enemy. I think that's treasonous. But anyway.
On the Second World War, how could they be down the middle? You couldn't take Nazi Germany or Imperial Japan side. But
oh, the
look
Muslim
at
Nazis,
Edward R. Murrow.
The
This is
Muslim,
London, and he's describing the bombs coming down.
You mean the Muslim Nazis are any better than the Nazis during World War II? They're the same thing. Also Nazis. The Muslim Nazis are not any better. And they do take the Muslim Nazi side. So, you know, they are evil traitors. They're the scum of the earth. And I forgot the name, Muir. What's the name of ABC?
American Broadcasting Corporation.
No, Muir. The guy who does ABC News. I haven't watched it in years, but
I haven't either.
David Muir.
I don't even watch Fox. Nothing.
David Muir. Okay. He's an extreme left wing. I'm just an extreme leftist, together with his boyfriend, who is a reporter there. He has a boyfriend, by the way. And that's the reporter that he's their anchor, by the way. He's their anchor. He has a boyfriend. I mean, this is America. This is a few. Anyway, whatever. There's no question that they will support. That they'll support Biden. I'm not happy today about what has taken place here. I think it was a mistake, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope Trump surprises us and does such a great job that we're all surprised. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm just not happy with this. With giving CNN and ABC control over something so important. I don't know. I think they should have said, listen, let's have reporters from Fox, let's have a mix of reporters here. Well, what is this? You only left wingers are allowed to be reporters? And Trump agreed to it? I don't know. I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned about it because we have so much at stake here. And, you know, again, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, as people who watch this show over the years know. I'm no fan of Donald Trump. But Biden is much worse. And for Israel, Biden, his policies of imposing sanctions on the Hilltop Youth and of all the Jewish heroes, and he wants to put an international force, including American troops, into Judea, Samaria, and Gaza, which will ensure the creation of a Palestinian state if God forbid the international forces are allowed to take control of the area. Then for sure they will create a Palestinian state with that. That would be a catastrophe, And this is the Biden plan. Now, the Trump plan was also bad, but Trump has less success with international things and putting together international coalitions, and he doesn't get along well. So that's good for Israel, because that means there'll be less coordination between the United States, the European Union, and all these others to work to make Israel commit suicide. So in that respect, Trump is better for Israel than Biden. Anyway, we've already made clear we've explained why it's essential that supporters of Israel vote for Trump over Biden in this election. And I think people understand now why I'm concerned about these upcoming debates. Again, let's hope and pray that despite that Biden is so pathetic and that Trump is so good that despite all these efforts to rig it, it doesn't work. I hope, but I'm very concerned. I'm very, very concerned. David?
When I was a little boy, and long before I was born, going way back, the only media was the newspaper. You couldn't get news without the newspaper. Then radio came along, and for every 25 minutes of programming, or if it was an hour show, you get 55 minutes of programming and then 5 minutes of news updates. Finally, television came along, and you could actually see the reporters. You had Walter Cronkite, Huntley Brinkley on NBC, and these men were there for their voices. And that was still the only news you could get. In New York City, we had so many newspapers. We had, I don't know, Chaim, if you remember this, we had, of course, the New York Nazi Times, the Herald Tribune, the Daily Mirror, the Daily Sun, the Daily News, the New York Post.
The Brooklyn Eagle.
Yeah, and the Long Island Star Journal.
And the Long Island Press. You remember the Long Island Press?
And you wouldn't have just one newspaper. You'd have newspaper come out at around 6 p.m. And that was called the late news. Oh, no, that was the early news. Then you'd have the late hour news come out a few hours later with further updates. And then you'd have the 5-star final come out around midnight or 1 in the morning. And that was the final newspaper of the day. So you could get the news in the morning of what happened this previous day. But that was just it. You were getting in your newspaper, no matter which newspaper it was, you were reading yesterday's news. And the only thing I could see worthwhile, and that's not even anymore, is if you were a big baseball nut and you wanted to see the box scores. So that's the legacy media. But now you have the internet where you have instant access. If something happens, it's up somewhere on the internet within 10 minutes. So the legacy media is dying. In California, they're proposing that the new media supplant and support the legacy media. Well, if the legacy media is no longer a viable product, and older people still want to see their newspapers, even though, because they don't know how to use the internet. So they can't get up to the minute news. They're getting yesterday's news. But once these older people go, there'll be no need for these newspapers or even the reporters on television. They're telling you news that happened earlier in the day, hours earlier in the day, whereas the internet is right on the spot. But how can they force Well, I guess in this country they could force anything because when I hear the land of the free, I laugh. But how can they force the new media, the internet companies, to support the legacy media with monetary remuneraries, as Ed Norton would say on The Honeymooners? And speaking about the current media, I've seen young people in the street in their early 20s, between, say, 22 and 25, ask people walking along the streets. This is a question, either the answer is either Biden or Trump. And it's who said, was it Biden or Trump, that you can't get into 7-Eleven unless you have at least a slight Indian accent? And everybody said, oh, Trump did that. Trump said that. Trump said that. Then they'll ask, who said, wait, my mind just went blank. I thought I wrote it down, but I didn't. Who said that poor kids could do just as well as white kids? And this, they asked person after person, and the answer was Trump said that. They asked men in their 60s. These were obviously working men, or were working men if they were retired, and they still said Trump said it. One woman, you could tell she was a city resident, she said, Trump's an idiot. He said that. Then the interviewer tells him, would you be amazed if I told you those two quotes were by Joe Biden? And then they go, really? Especially to black people. And one black woman said she's going to have to reconsider voting. She was planning on voting for Joe Biden, and she's going to have to reconsider that now. I don't understand. Remember Joe Biden saying, if you don't know who you're going to vote for, then you ain't black. Do you remember when Joe Biden said something about integrating the schools long ago when he was lucid, when he was a young senator? So this man, Trump never said that, at least not in public. So this man, everybody thinks he's so innocent if you're on the left, but he's actually quite a racist, and it comes out because he's so senile now, he doesn't really know what he's saying.
Yeah, but he definitely is a racist. Well, leftists are racist. White leftists are racists. They're hypocrites.
Yeah, because look at how they feel about Clarence Thomas. There you have a black Supreme Court judge, and they did everything they possibly could because saying he's not really black, he's an Uncle Tom. They wanted to get rid of him. They still want to get rid of him because he's a black man that doesn't go along with the program.
It's not just that. It's when they told the Southerners you have to integrate. Meanwhile, the minute a black person moves into their neighborhood, they all put their houses up for sale. I mean, this is leftist behavior, or they don't. Now, there was a new study that just came out this week that showed that America's schools are resegregating because all these white leftists are moving their kids into white schools now. They want to live in they only want white schools. For some reason, they don't want their kids going to school with blacks. I don't know why, but for some reason, they don't want it. I mean, they're hypocrites. The white leftists are hypocrites. They're racists and they're hypocrites. There's no question about that. Anyway, and Joe Biden Joe Biden certainly is a racist. I mean, even though he picked the cackling hyena as his vice presidential candidate. By the way, I don't know if you saw this week what she said. She gave one of her meandering answers again. And like we have to know, when we're thinking those thoughts again, when we think our thoughts, we have to know what thoughts we are thinking. She started one of those, this is literally how she speaks. I mean, completely beyond belief. And then she said, but if they don't let you through the door, if they don't let you in the door, kick that effing door down. And she didn't say effing, she said the word. And then she started with the cackling laugh after she did it again this week. I mean, this is, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I don't know how anybody can support this. I just don't understand it. But anyway, go ahead, David.
Well, Joe Biden was staring into space. He was actually at a rally for him, and he couldn't understand that on the some of the signs there were Trump signs at a Joe Biden rally, and he was confused because there's FJB all over the people in the audience, and I'm not going to say what that is, but you know FJB. And he said young kids are flipping him off wherever he goes. And as he's talking, he's staring into space. He's not even looking at the audience. You know, you reach a point where you don't even, when you have dementia, especially if it's Alzheimer's, I don't think his is. I think his was an aphasia stroke, or actually Jill Biden said 2 aphasia strokes, which does give you similar symptoms to Alzheimer's. So he was staring into space while the audience was a little bit to his right. And he was talking how he couldn't understand how he's getting all of this hatred, especially with the media on your side. How do you get all this hatred? So he is without question the worst president we've ever had in this country. And we've had some Lulus. And speaking about Lulus and hypocrites, do you remember when Michelle Obama said, some people are going to have to give up a share of their portion of the pie so others can have more? Well, this is what the Obamas have. And I don't know where they got this kind of money from. He was a community organizer. Even as president, the salary is $400,000 a year. After taxes, let's say he takes home $225,000. On Martha's Vineyard, they have a mansion that's worth $11.7 million. In Hawaii, they have a mansion that's worth $8.7 million. In Chicago, they have a mansion that's worth $1.7 million, and a Washington mansion which is worth $8.1 million. Where'd they get the money to buy this? Harry Truman said you can't get rich in politics unless you're a crook. Well, we have many crooks in Washington, and obviously Obama is just one more of these people. Where does this money come from? And when are they going to give up their piece of the pie? Or did they move on up to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky? Moving on up to the east side, we're going to take a piece of your pie.
Joe Biden, by the way, the Biden family also.
Mansions all over.
Super wealthy, yeah.
And you remember Al Gore with his climate change speeches? And then he gets into his, this is after he's not this is when he's not vice president anymore. Excuse me. He gets into this SUV. It's about as big as you could get. I think it was a Lincoln Navigator. It probably got 15 miles to the gallon on the highway, if that.
He has he has airplanes taking him, gigantic jumbo jets traveling. He's the only passenger on the plane, traveling to his speaking engagements where he gets $1 million to speak somewhere. It's just
such hypocrites.
Such hypocrisy. So phony.
Well, I told you when we couldn't get our usual place for our Hall of Fame doo-wop show in New York City, that Joe Biden was speaking at the theater we wanted and always used. And that night, I am so glad it was 2 degrees.
You mean Al Gore, not Joe Biden. You said.
Yeah, I mean Al Gore. Yeah, it was 2 degrees, and the winds were blowing at gusting to 35 miles an hour. It was like needles hitting you in the face. And, you know, New York is damp air, so it really goes right through you. I wonder what kind of idiot he felt like making a speech. Well, how can you feel like an idiot if you're probably getting a lot of money? All the ticket sales probably went to him. And to show how stupid the Americans are, do you remember the woman that spilled coffee, McDonald's coffee on her lap, and then because she started to drive with the coffee cup between her legs and she got scalded, and then she sues McDonald's and she wins. So now McDonald's has to lower the temperature of their coffee, which a lot of people want it that hot. A lot of people drink their coffee very hot. I never drink coffee, so I don't know. I mean, Chaim will give me a look, but he knows I'm a soda drinker. Also, I drink a lot of water now. A lot of
Poison,
water.
poison. I'm glad you drink water. You should drink water. Soda, by the way, will only make you more thirsty. You know that. Anything with
Yeah, there's
sugar in
salt
it,
in there.
anything with sugar or salt will
I don't drink
sugar.
sugar soda anymore.
It'll make it. The other, you mean the diet sodas you drink?
Yeah,
That's even more. That's the chemicals they use are poison. I mean, it's
yeah.
poison.
I don't drink much, but I do drink a little every day.
That's plenty. Give me
I don't
don't
want
drink
Chaim to
much
know that I
every
used
day.
to
Okay,
drink.
but all right, go ahead.
I used to
Yeah.
drink 4 cans of Pepsi and 2 cans of Coke every day.
It's a miracle you're still with us.
The
A
sugar
miracle.
soda, but no more. I don't do that anymore.
Ugh, miracle you're still with us. Okay.
And then in Greece, we have Muslims hunting down Jewish tourists. Oh, I have something for everybody to think about. I told you about that bishop in Australia that was stabbed by a Muslim that came into his church. I didn't know how bad he was stabbed. He was stabbed in the eye and lost the eye. And he still forgives, at least he says he forgives the Muslim. Could you? I mean, if I was stabbed in the eye, lost an eye, I wouldn't even want that guy put to death. I wanted him tortured. And in Islam, torture doesn't mean pain. You could torture him by putting him in women's clothing, shaving off his beard, making him go to the ladies' room.
Just
And
put
that's,
just make him touch pork.
I was just going to say, and then give him pigskin and wrap him in the pigskin. And that will mean he can't get into paradise because he's defiled. So that would be torture for a Muslim. As far as death, these animals welcome it because it says they will end up in paradise. Nowhere in the Quran or the Hadith does it say they get 72 virgins. That's a made up thing, but they believe they will. So more power to them. Where do they get there and find out it's 72 Virginians with rebel flags?
No, they have 72 virgins. They all look like they all look
Bill
like
Abzug.
no, they look like what's her name? Arafat. What was her name? Arafat's wife?
Oh, yeah.
So-called wife?
Miss Palestine.
Yeah. Oh, as you said at the time, she looks like Miss Frankenstein.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that's Miss Palestine.
Yeah. Anyway, whatever.
Wait, just let me get this and hang up on them. Okay. I forgot to take the phone out. Okay, I have a story to tell. Nicholas Winton, I hope he's at Yad Vashem. He was in the British diplomatic service in the 30s into the war. And he saw things in Germany that were going on. And then I think he saw things in Holland after Germany invaded Holland. And being he wasn't like the top ambassador or the minister in each embassy. He was just in the diplomatic corps. And he saw what was going on. So what he did, he thought this is wrong. And he tried to get Jewish children out. And he did. He got well over 600 Jewish children out of Nazi occupied lands and Nazi Germany by fighting tooth and nail to get visas for them. And when he couldn't anymore, because now the war was on, he would forge visas himself. And he ended up getting about 635 Jewish kids out. So after the war, he never spoke about what he did. He was about 29 when he started doing it. But after the war and in the 1980s, he still never spoke about it. And word got out somehow of what he did. So he was invited to come watch a British TV show. It was a talk show. And he had a front row seat. And then and he's unaware that they're going to start talking about him. And the announcer starts talking about Nicholas Winton and that all the work he did to save Jewish children. And then he said, being he's sitting in the front seat, the TV host says, Nicholas, if you look to your right, you'll see one of the children you saved. And she stood up, and now she's a middle-aged woman herself. And they hug and kiss. And then the announcer says, "Is there anyone else here who was saved by Nicholas Winton?" And 3/4 of the audience stands up. And Nicholas Winton, he starts getting teary, and a round of a standing ovation for what he did. And he was probably about 80 when he was the guest on the show, but he lived to a nice, ripe old age of 106.
Wow. No, very righteous person.
And then we have my last story, Kason Young. If you're my age or older or a little younger, maybe Chaim did this too when you were, say, 8, 10 years old. You used to put models together, models of World War II ships, World War II airplanes, by companies like Aurora and Revell, especially Revell. And these were plastic, and you used to use glue that would cause brain damage. So we didn't know about it at the time. We didn't use it in a well-ventilated area. We used that glue because it held plastic together very well. Well, one of those models was of a U.S. destroyer called the Kason Young, which, if you don't know what I'm talking about, a destroyer is one of the smaller warships designed to basically chase submarines. It has a few 5-inch guns and torpedo tubes and some anti-aircraft guns to protect itself. The most common destroyer during World War II was the Fletcher class, which the Kason Young is one of them. Well, Kason Young was a naval captain. When Pearl Harbor started, he was a commander, and he was given an ancestor of his was on the Merrimack during the Civil War. Well, his whole family were naval officers right through down to him. And he was a commander on a ship called the Vestal, which was called a collier. It's a repair ship. It could also bring some oil to a ship that needs oil. And they tied right down to the Arizona. When the Arizona was struck, Commander Kason Young, who was the captain, was blown off the vessel into the sea, well, into the harbor. And the ship was hit by additional bombs, and the Arizona was about to blow up. So the next in line said, "Abandon ship." Kason Young climbed back on the ship from the sea, and he told everybody to stop, get those burners going, because all the ships were dead calm. They had to light up, which took time. They cut the lines that were attached to the Arizona, and they coasted away until they could get fire up. And it wasn't easy because some of the lines were cut from the explosions. And they took the vessel out slowly and beached it and saved the vessel. So Kason Young got the Congressional Medal of Honor for this, and he was promoted to captain. So now he's on the San Francisco, which is a heavy cruiser. In those days, battleships were named after states, and heavy cruisers were named after fairly large cities or major cities. And Guadalcanal is going on, and the tide is starting to turn in our favor, but we still are suffering from Pearl Harbor. So the San Francisco, the heavy cruiser, and another heavy cruiser go out to meet the Japanese fleet along with some destroyers. The Japanese fleet is led by 2 battleships. And of course, a cruiser is no match for a battleship with 14 and 15-inch guns, while the cruiser has 8-inch guns. So it's nighttime. You can't even tell who's who. And they get in close to the battleships. And they do a lot of damage to the battleships before a big battleship shell hits the bridge where Kason Young is, and he's killed. And the admiral who's in charge of that fleet is also killed on that bridge. So Kason Young gets the Distinguished Service Cross, and he gets a destroyer, Fletcher-class destroyer, named after him. And the point I'm trying to make is this is the iron men that used to inhabit this country. Now all we have is wimpy simpletons who want their own safe space. So we salute you, Case and Young, for a job well done. And one last little thing I just thought of. Here's something I bet nobody knows. Robert Duvall, you remember him in the movie The Godfather? Tom Hagen, the lawyer?
Mm-hmm.
He was actually a direct descendant from Robert E. Lee. And that's all I have this week.
Wow. Okay. Interesting point. He never would have gotten his part if that was known today. He would never would have gotten the part in the movie.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
anyway, now George Washington, they take down George Washington's statues. He's also, you're not allowed to have statues of George Washington. You're not allowed to have Thomas Jefferson.
Didn't he free his slaves before he died?
I don't know.
I think he did. That was Martha Washington's request.
Okay. Well, whatever, but I know they still take down his statues. In your heart, you know we're right. And in your guts, you know they're nuts. Get active and help us. Participate with us. First of all, help spread these videos all over the place. The video of the show. Spread the videos. Tell other people about the videos. Spread the news about our message. And of course, help us help the Hilltop youth. For JTF until next week, this is Chaim ben Pesach, and for David ben Moshe, Shalom.